Sigoli, Nadioliwas, Skanagoga, Skanago. It means greetings. Are you with, what is the news? Are you with peace? I am with peace. That's some Oneida for you, as it is a beautiful day to be alive. I'm just so grateful, honestly, to be in community with each and every one of you. I know we're an asynchronous class and all that, but I've just been really appreciative of all of our discussion in the group me, of people reaching out through office hours, through different emails, just through different discussions, videos. You all are speaking to me. I really resonate with so much of your words. I feel like I'm taking a class taught by you all, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm loving it. This is incredible. Full transparency. I oftentimes feel like, because I don't have a JD myself, to say, am I the right person to be teaching this class? Should I be doing what I'm doing? But I've just been so incredibly grateful to be able to facilitate the conversations we're having here as we're in circles. So as we say in Oneida, let's put our minds together. So be it in our minds, as Don Coyhis reminds us, as for smudging, has different things. I've heard people say you smudge your hands to do good things, you smudge your mind to think good things. But I definitely resonate with Don Coyhis's words when you're connecting the place, the 18 inches from your head to your heart, which can be the longest journey for many human beings. And a reminder as well too, as Ish reminded me as well too, this notion of the mouse perspective or eagle's perspective. So as I hold the eagle feather here, there's a reason why we do it. It has spiritual properties. It gives you the properties of that animal as well too. And the eagle is the bird that flies the highest. It has spiritual properties, a liaison between us and the spirit world. Reminded me here to have that eagle view, that eagle perspective here as I'm with you all in circles. So I just want to say Yawanko and Gadolunqua means thank you, and I love you in Oneida. It's been such a pleasure to learn with you all this semester. There was a comment shared by Kelly as well too, talking about education, and the article I talked about the different obstacles overcoming, what that's like. And I even just think about these feathers that's holding them as I was getting ready to speak to you all. I remember when I was walking across the stage at Pepperdine, I remember having my eagle feather on my head. And right before I walked on the stage, I remember somebody tried to take it off my head because they're like, "Oh, you're not allowed to have anything else on your motor board." But I just kind of, just kind of dodged and went around them. That's kind of how I've had to go about. That's probably a good metaphor for how I've been going about my educational experience at times. You kind of have to make your own path and kind of have to do what you have to do and educate others along the journey. But I just wanted to say, it just feels to learn from you all, to have your open minds and open hearts. There is pushback at times and there is different things, but I just want to say each group of students is different. Each time I teach this class is different, and this class is very special and unique, just like they all are. But I'm really grateful for this. I'm told that every time you put your foot in a river, you take it out, it's no longer the same river. You can't step in the same river twice because it's just constantly changing, constantly moving. But we're fluid, what we're creating, and what the moment that we're in right now here in August 2022. So that being said, it's week 5. I'm LaGuadio, aka Dr. Reed, giving you what you need, some good medicine, some good words. As I'm told, our words have medicine to either make people feel included or excluded. So come on in, people. There's plenty of room. I got you here. Let's get it. Here we go. I love this quote. I want to start with this one as well too. This artist and activist, Greg Deal. This is a quote from Twitter from 2018. He says, "Today I was asked, what is most important to Indigenous people? The land, protecting traditions, your language, or your people?" I told him, those are all the same things. Talk about protecting the sacred there. So the idea of being your land, protecting traditions, your language, and the people, all the same things. There was a office meme where it looked at Pam Beasley and had a similar idea, the idea of asking corporate to find the difference between these things and saying these are all the same things, right? But it's a funny idea looking at it, but it's the truth, the saying that the land, protecting traditions, your language, your people. So many different people, for instance, for the Haudenosaunee, we're the people of the Longhouse. It gives specific reference to where our Longhouse is in what is now upstate New York, but also what is now up still Onondaga, the keepers of the fire here for the Haudenosaunee. It's very important as well too. We're Onondaga people, which means people of the standing stone, giving specific point to a geographic place in our relationship with Mother Earth as well too. Very sacred, as is the language. Talk about the Native American Languages Act of 1990, which prohibited people from speaking it until then. It was illegal, even though we had over 33 different tribal nations that were used as code talkers, sworn to secrecy here, helped us win different wars and conflicts since World War I with the United States. But so just a thought there as we open with either a prayer, a song, a little bit of meditation reflection. So a little bit of that right now today. So we think about as well too what that means for reclamation, what that means for land back. One example is in 1980, the Supreme Court awarded 9 tribes constituting what is the Oglala Sioux, also included the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota people. Back in the day, in 1980, 105 million for the illegal seizing of the sacred Black Hills, which broke the 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie. And as we saw from Article 4, Clause 2 of the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, that is the supreme law of the land, those treaties. In 2011, this trust value has increased to $1.3 billion, right? That was in 2011, right? We're 11 years later, so it's even more than that. The tribe refuses the money as they believe accepting the funds would constitute a transaction of sales of land. The tribal nation leaders emphasized how the land was never for sale. And it's that notion as well too. It reminded me, again, a comment by Kelly in one of the videos, just talking about how for some people, it's not about that financial compensation. Sometimes it's not about that. It's what does this person need to heal? In this situation, it's recognition of lands, acknowledgement, ownership of lands. And that brings us to that kind of full circle from beginning of the class. I talked about that co-stewardship of all state and national parks with Indigenous tribal nations from each area, which I'll put in the YouTube link down below. And I'll send you all an email out this week as well too, reminding you about it in case you want to read more about that, of what that means for giving acknowledgement, educating, and honoring these people who are still very much here. I think anytime I'm a part of an land acknowledgement, oftentimes I'll hear people say, and it's just so sad to be the Native peoples in the past. It's kind of fixing like, oh, well, that's all it was. Like, no, people, we're still in it. We can be the generation, we can be the movement and the peoples that recognize, acknowledge, educate, and honor, that move towards reconciliation, that acknowledge the past to try to truly create a better world for all peoples for 7 generations to come. We can do that. It's happening still now, and we can make a difference. It's not over, it's still happening. Highly recommend this one. I was talking to Sarah about this on their path to being a progressive prosecutor. Let's go, Sarah. And in this one right here, it's talking about, this was recommended to me by one of my colleagues and mentors. And this person, Heather Zanone, was telling me they're UC Berkeley law school alumni, and they work with different legislators and in legislation and different things. And in this one, it was a really good podcast. They recommended to me. I would highly recommend it to you, as you're going to listen here to Professor Maggie Blackhawk talking with Lindsay Langholz. And again, about an hour long, but it's about 2 really important Supreme Court decisions. And in week 7 for the video, I'll talk a little bit more about Supreme Court decisions and statutes in a little bit longer video that I want to give you all. I know some of you all have already taken American Indian law. Some of you are planning on it. Some of you may not be familiar, but this for everyone, I would highly recommend it, as this is constantly changing, constantly flowing. It's really important to have the most up-to-date information. There's been a lot of important Supreme Court decisions. There's been the Oklahoma versus Castro Huerta, which was really a response to McGirt versus Oklahoma in 2020, which really aimed to get specifics about jurisdiction, who has jurisdiction, in terms of like the states having jurisdiction over different things, which before were tribal jurisdiction. And also, I said last week, I said Brackeen versus Zink, which was in the 2018 Texas state court case, but the Supreme Court case is happening right now is Brackeen versus Holland, and that one is going to be referencing the Indian Child Welfare Act. As again, there's the, I think it's the equality clause under the Constitution that advocates against ICWA are saying that all people should be equal, that we're giving unfair treatment towards Native American peoples. And again, taking out of context that this land is all stolen from Native peoples, all the Indian boarding school, Indian residential schools, all the children after that who were swooped up as well too, and just taken and put into, who were sold to do adoption as well. And really the American Psychological Association making the recommendation against having Native children be taken out of their homes, as culture is important. So that being said, that I would highly recommend this. You all take this when it's optional, but I would definitely recommend, I'll put a link to it as well too, the YouTube video and the email to you all as well too this week, but definitely have an eye out and an ear out for that one as well too. I really appreciate, again, our reflections on nature being sacred. That was one of my favorite times of my summer. I'm not gonna lie, people, it was really nice to have meditative reflections and just seeing us all on the same planet, floating through the blue cosmos at different points on the planet, feeling very connected by that spiritual energy and that physical connection of Mother Earth, which connects us all as well too. There's a couple different documentaries that I'm a fan of, recognizing again this sacred planet, this Earth. One of them is on Disney Plus called Sacred Planet, and it came out in 2004 about Indigenous peoples and around the world and different connections to the land. Another one, really powerful, I would highly recommend it. It's called In the Light of Reverence. It's on Vimeo. I believe it's available for renting, and I would highly recommend it in terms of people, if you're a scholar of American Indian law, if you have ambitions for being a progressive prosecutor, if you're just a scholar of this and you're just a human being who wants to learn more about our relationship to Mother Earth and take care of that, would highly recommend this film. Very important, has a lot of important things in there. So for your week 5 readings, it's 2 chapters, count them 2. First one, when people act as if they have no relatives, really diving deeper into this idea we've talked about throughout this semester for the Dene people, as where the book is Navajo Nation Peacemaking, really perceptions of justice. So a little more philosophical idea and looking at what we mean by the word justice. I've heard that it's saying like art, justice is in the eye of the beholder. That one really struck me as well too. But you're gonna get a hold of those readings. Let me know what you think as well too. I really appreciate each of you and your weekly responses as well too. I'm telling you, learning a lot. Week 5 videos I want you all to watch. Still talking a lot about the environment as well too this week. for the videos. And for those, the first one, it's a music video, but it's also very educational as well too. It's about a protest that happened at Standing Rock between 2016 and 2017. I was just out there for one day, but when I was out there, people were like, "Oh, I came out for a weekend." And that was 8 months ago, and people were just so selfless. We were like, "Anyone else would do the same thing? It's no big deal." When you go out there, I remember one of the first people. I think I can't remember if I told you all this, but they said, "Have you ever felt rubber bullets before?" It's like, "No, I never have." The person just puts one in my hand. He said, "Well, this is what they're shooting at us when we were protesting. All unarmed people, all the spray painted signs everywhere. So your prayers are your weapon." And have you ever felt those bean bags they use when they're like for that they put into crowds, like for different things? It's like, "No, I haven't." So you put one of those in my hand as well too. This little miniature, really hard little bean bag, little square things. Well, that's what they're shooting at us. So when they ran out of those, and they were just shooting the BBs that went inside there, and they're put one of those BBs in my hand as well too. And to feel those things, these people who are unarmed people, just there to protect Mother Earth, because you can't drink oil. Water is life. 60% of our bodies are water. 70% of our planet is water. It's a beautiful thing. So again, there's a portion in here where it cuts to a phone call between an activist who is there at the event, and they're talking to the sheriff's department. As they're talking about the sheriff's department, they're trying to report the abuses going on, and they're saying, "Well, it's being done by the police." The person on the other side of the phone call is saying, "Well, for the police department, for the sheriff's office is saying, well, yeah, if police are there, it's already being reported." The person says, "Well, who protects us from the police?" And it's a fair question. There's this graphic novel, Watchmen, and it poses the same question in Latin of like, who watches the Watchmen? But it's just a great question of accountability. And the answer in the video from the person in the sheriff's office is like, well, the next step from here would be the governor's office. So remember that, people. The next step would be the governor's office. So all the important work you all are doing, whatever you're doing, if it's a certificate, a master's, a JD, whatever you're doing, just know the work you're doing is important. To be in an influential place with the things that you know, that's not everybody. And the stuff that you're doing is really important. Please continue to keep educating people in these spaces in graceful and respectful ways, and try to bring us all to a better future. But very important music video. Please watch that. A message from Russell Means, one of the key people in the American Indian movement. Just a message about how we view and relate to Mother Earth. I think a lot of you all will resonate with that after our activity we did. Chief Oren Lyon speaking out about climate change. He talks about how with Mother Earth, there's just the justice which Mother Earth takes place in terms of and in terms of not having mercy, and in terms of just being like, we've been telling you this for a long time, and in terms of how we need to take care of Mother Earth and what that justice is like, climate justice. And lastly, looking at the Navajo Water Lady, which is looking at this example, one example of many that I can go into here. You can message me if you're interested more about it. I'll see if I can give you some more resources here. But the Navajo Water Lady, it's an example where it's estimated, well, I think still to this day, I believe, it's up to 40% of the people living on the Dene Nation do not have access to running water. So this person goes as a form, I believe, of restorative justice through their actions of going around and healing people with water, this gift of water, this sacred gift of water. This person, with their own benefit, own resources, they go around, I believe in part, I believe with a church is this person's activities. And there's many different nonprofits that are trying to help give people water that don't have access to water as well too. But in this example, just seeing that and just what we take for granted, from the time that we turn on the shower to turn on the faucet to getting a glass of water, and recognizing that that's really a spiritual thing. We need to take care of that and make sure that people have access to that all over. It's very important. Some optional units as well too is, I know we're not in the season right now, but Thanksgiving, I know that we have in the United States, we've kind of celebrated it as this thing, but it's really what that is. I hate to, if I'm the messenger here, just wanted to know from what I've been passed on, it's really a fictional narrative that was created in a post-Civil War time to try to bring people together. But the reality of it is really a national day of mourning for many Native peoples as well too, recognizing this, trying to reconcile, acknowledging the pain and what many days of Thanksgiving were days of celebration to God for the safe return of peoples. For instance, one Thanksgiving, Governor John Winthrop was in the mid 1600s was giving thanks for the safe return of people after the massacre of the Pequot people, after burning them while they were in their sleep. So it's pretty hard to think about that. Think about that's like a lot of the foundations of this country in the United States, but also thinking that we can acknowledge, educate, and honor the people who went through that and create a better world going forward, and talk about these things so we can create a more just and more equitable future. And I think it is really heavy and really awful topic. I know for me personally, I think when I was like 6th grade, I learned about the Holocaust. That was like really heavy and really awful. I think it would be appropriate to learn about the genocide, which by definition is the purposeful erasure or destruction of a peoples. And that would be by definition what's been happening to Native peoples, and still to this day. Definitely the going to harming of peoples for missing and murdering Indigenous women, or just how culture is still just trying to be erased, and history being erased, right? That's still a continuous form of genocide. So that being said, if you want to educate yourself on this and look at some perspectives, again, you don't have to agree with everything I say, everything someone in the video says, but I do expect you to have respect and sharing, which you all have been phenomenal with so far. And I'm just so grateful for that, really am. As we're reminded about restorative justice, the tools of which can be used, right? We talk about all the different ways from different native nations and tribal nations from all over the world, whether that's Africa, New Zealand, Australia, what we know as North and South America today in different places. Phenomenal. And I just think that it's, we have seen it picked up in like people like Howard Zare in 1980 or so talking about different things, and we've had different structures built upon it for different systems. So I do think it's nice to have that community building as we've been doing here in class. I do conferencing as well too as a practitioner, and trying to have, I say the difference between me and a mediator is that I have an open bias for harmony. I want good. I want peace. I want positivity. I want kindness. I want love. I'm not a neutral mediator who is just a blank slate that's passing on back and forth. I say, no. I am openly leading with love. And that's what I'm going to try to bring here today. And that's what I do when I'm a practitioner of circles, leading with a good heart, a good mind, and a strong fire. What we mean by that for Oneida people, having a good heart is love for yourself, love for your family, love for your community, love for your world. Having a good mind is having a generous sense of humor, being at peace, as also important to have a sense of peace. And then your strong fire is your spiritual flame, that your flame allows the ability to have others, their spiritual flames as well too. You can ignite that. The reason why I tell you all this is when you're going into conferencing, it's important to have that strong foundation, as it's going to be tumultuous. It can be pretty wild. Stuff can get pretty crazy. I've been in some things where stuff hits the fan, to say the least. So it's good to be that distinguished presence of peace, having that eagle perspective, try to bring people together with love. That's my 2 cents, my encouragement for you all, those who are working in restoration, whether that's in alternative mediation or different things that you're doing. But keep on keeping on with what you're doing and leading for peace, leading for love, leading for harmony. And I was recently reminded today, one of my colleagues Prasadni, who was learning from other colleagues, Meenakshi, working at the Center at University of San Diego Center for Restorative Justice, but they're talking about reentry circles. And they're saying, Meenakshi was saying, yes, you see it in 3 tiers here, but oftentimes it doesn't have to go 1, 2, 3. Really, the 1 to 3 are very similar in terms of the support and community building, right? That reentry and community building can be very similar in terms of how those are done. So it's a reminder of that sometimes people feel like, oh, how do I do reentry circles? What is that like? It's a very similar idea to creating that same sense of harmony, that same sense of inclusion, that same sense of community that you have in that tier 1 community building. So again, just my framing of putting some of my Oneida perspective on what we know for some of our 3 tiers as well too. All right, people, I meant to give this to you last week, but I got so excited and just sent you out with some words of encouragement before, but it was still a half-hour video. But now I wanted to tell you all some film or TV recommendations that I have for you. If you have a chance on Hulu, you can get like a free month subscription if you don't already, but you can watch Reservation Dogs, season 1, the first 2 episodes of season 3. It's one of the first like all native writing team, predominantly native cast, very funny. And I think a lot of people are caught off guard by it. And so there's been some of the main actors going on different late night shows talking about it and how people are we're funny as Native people, but a lot of people just don't know that, right? And we have a chance to be funny. And some of the funniest people I know are some of my great uncles who have passed away, but they were full Oneida people. My great uncle Ben, who recently passed away, one of the funniest people I know, always saying jokes. Every other word is a laughter or a joke. And my great uncle Harry as well too, where he was, it's just always just a little smile on his face and just always he's always just 3 steps ahead with some kind of funny joke that you did not expect. So would highly recommend that in terms of just understanding Indigenous people that we have here for North and South America, predominantly North America, but a good show as well too. Smoke Signal is a good movie I'd recommend as well too for some Native storytelling. Powwow Highway, another one. Incident at Oglala, 1992. So some of the information is a little bit dated, but it's about the 45-year imprisonment, which is now 45 years of imprisonment, of Leonard Peltier, who's been one of the longest political prisoners that we have currently for the United States. And the Freedom of Information Act showed that the guns did not match the bullets, that we know that Leonard Peltier is not the one who did it, yet he is still in prison for a crime he did not commit. So all you progressive prosecutors out there, free Leonard Peltier. A lot of people have been doing it. A lot of my life go to powwows, and oftentimes at powwows, ever since I was a little kid, since I was younger, you'd see like a older lady or so, usually an older elder, oftentimes a woman or so, but different people would go around and like collecting funds for the legal fund for protecting and freeing Leonard Peltier. I do know there's I think like there's like a different legal team who is working on it now as well too, have picked up the case, but still everything helps in terms of having that support and awareness to free Leonard Peltier. But a good film about it. Rumble, The Indians Who Rocked the World, love this one as well too, in terms of the influence of Native peoples on music, as music doesn't happen in a vacuum as well too. I think it's very restorative as well too, in terms of people even framed at the beginning as the artists were saying, like, I want to do something that's very not reactive but proactive, sharing our culture, sharing our community with the, sharing our culture with the world, and really doing that through music. And it's a really beautiful thing. So highly recommend, one of my favorite documentaries of all time. Real uses the slur here, so just using it for the sake of this, but it says Real Engine, and that's a film that is talking about the stereotypes of Native people in film and how harmful that's been over different, there's been, I believe, over 4,000 Western films, and almost all of those, it frames in a fictional way, but passes it off oftentimes as historical fact of Native peoples as the aggressors and the antagonists, and the cowboys, the settlers, as the protagonists. And when in reality, a lot of those things were actually flipped in terms of how those situations actually happened, but painting people as savages and warlike and war crazy, when really this was not the case. Yes, there were sometimes mourning wars or people responding with different action. Every single tribal nation is different. No monoliths here. So over 2,000 different tribal nations, each with their own different interaction. If you imagine countries in Europe or Asia or Africa, it's as many, you have continents, but it's every single different country has their own different identity as well too, and their different things. But that being said, film has been a pretty tough medium there for Native peoples, but it's been a positive way to see like Reservation Dogs and other things taking it back. For any sci-fi fans out there, there's recently the new movie called Prey, which is like the Predator film, and it's looking at a Comanche perspective from, I think it's like the 1700s or so, and there's a Comanche dub, which is so cool. I'm watching it right now, and I'm in the middle of it, and it's amazing with like English subtitles. Highly recommend that in terms of seeing the culture and just kind of a positive way of doing it in sci-fi. So it's kind of a silly take of Predator, but at the same time, of being able to showcase the culture kind of hiding in plain sight, I say, in terms of doing a positive way of representation for Native peoples. Spirit Game, Proud of a Nation. I'm the ambassador for that film. Took over a decade to make. Really, really positive and incredible film about the Haudenosaunee people using lacrosse as a springboard for sovereignty, as the Haudenosaunee Nationals support them as they are on their journey to compete in 2028. As Rex Lyons says, he sees them at the Olympics, carrying the Olympic torch into the Olympic Games in Los Angeles here, where I'm currently here at Wanyanyo Achiman territory, Gabrieleño Tongva, and Chumash territory down here around Los Angeles. So definitely watch that film. It came out in 2017. They're making one now, a sequel to it as well too. Highly recommend it. Keepers of the Game, about gender norms being shattered here for women being able to play lacrosse, as before that wasn't always the case. Has to do with people's medicine in terms of different things and roles. However, the way with our roles, the way with our ways is they can also change as well too. So definitely recommend seeing that film. Blood Quantum, another sci-fi film, but a fun one about Native peoples and seeing some of the Native language on display. The Doughboy, about Blood Quantum and identity. Trudell, it's on YouTube. Really recommend this one. If anyone wants to know about the life of John Trudell, a phenomenal American Indian activist. Some Native American peoples have used the analogy of this being one of our Socrates or Plato or Aristotle, just being a very phenomenal, very progressive thinker. No longer with us, I believe passed away, I think it's 2014. I believe passed away near Venice, California, near the end of his life there, but a phenomenal thinker. If you want to see oftentimes you think about Native history, it feels like it's one-sided if just things kind of happening to Native people. So if you want to see Native people responding in a very proactive way, in an intellectual, philosophical, spiritual way, watch Trudell. Trudell, it's on YouTube, check it out. And then Hollow Water, another documentary as well too, about using restorative justice, using talking circles to combat sexual violence in our Indigenous community as well. Some Indigenous video games, I know we're moving along here, but do check them out as you're looking at restorative justice in Indigenous communities. And I think that storytelling can be restorative as well too, a form of restorative justice. Never Alone, it's this picture on the bottom left here. It's one of the first Indigenous-owned video game development companies. It's an amazing game, highly recommend it. Another one here, Maluka. A portion of Maluka's earnings will be donated to the strengthening of the culture and preservation of the Sierra Tarahumara. So just a couple of video games, if you or anyone you know like to play video games, if you want to give a little insight into some Indigenous culture and Native storytelling, check those out. Lastly, I opened up last week talking about taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This is one depiction of the medicine wheel. I've heard it also talked about as the 4 directions. And there's this notion with the 4 directions, as I've heard it said by Dr. Donald Warren, who's a Lakota person, that even notions that seem so different, right? The East and the West, right? The idea is if you kept going west and you kept going west and you kept going, where would you eventually end up? If you kept going, right back to where you started. As we're on a planet here. And this notion that things that can seem very different are actually very much connected and the same, that we're all connected, everything is connected. So it has the different colors of human beings. I've heard it said as well too, for those different colors. If you see that of the red, black, white, yellow, some of those different things I've seen for all human beings here. But also it stands for the physical, the mental, emotional, and spiritual. So keep taking care of yourself in all those different quadrants. And sometimes I found them all to be connected, but they definitely need to be kept in balance. And for me, it's a conscious effort to do so. But I definitely encourage you to keep doing that, whether it's talking circles with yourself, as I do when I meditate every morning, opening up my chakras. Shout out to the people where it comes from in India, the cultural and religious practice, very grateful for that as well too. And also recognizing that many Native people, that meditation is very, very common with us as well too, in terms of for Haudenosaunee people, having that deep state of connection with the creator as well too, and with peace. So I want to finish with this line here. It's one by Lakota rapper named Prolific the Rapper. And he says, every group of human beings shares the same stars. And if the earth is not your mother, are you from Mars? So it's a friendly reminder there that we are all human beings floating on this blue dot in the cosmos here. And you are all human beings who are worthy of love. I'm so grateful for you. Yes, you. I hope you keep taking care of yourself. Thank you so much. I look forward to keep putting our minds together. So be it in our minds. And go take care of yourself, people. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you all very much. Yawanko, gonna look Nugiwa. Thank you. I love you. Until next time.